They say curiosity killed the cat, but that's not entirely true. Sometimes it's the people around them that pays the price. Hi, I'm Paul Holstein, and I'm going to read to you the story of Primal George in this episode of Poltergeist Frights. The jungle used to be such a wondrous, peaceful place, full of beautiful creatures to befriend, views to get lost in, and many answers to the questions I ask every day. I would go on many adventures in the Wonderland and make numerous discoveries alongside my brothers and sisters. Every animal that knows me constantly said that I was a curious little monkey. I always found questions fascinating because, in a way, the questions themselves can answer the very foundation of our existence. However, I would soon find out that there were some questions that remained unanswered for a reason, because my latest discovery soon cost me everything. It all started with an invasion of creatures I never saw before in my life. I wanted to learn everything there was to know about our new residents, but they allowed me to learn too much. I've always been told that curiosity killed the cat, but I didn't know it could also kill a monkey. It all started like any ordinary day in the jungle. Me and my siblings were about to get ready for our latest adventure. My mom always told me to look after them and protect them, and I told her that I wouldn't let anything bad happen to them. We left, ready to see what kind of phenomena the trees were going to greet us with, as we passed the sloths and the many birds making their nests. With the wind blowing across my fur and the squeals of absolute joy from my family, life couldn't be more pleasant. However, upon swinging, I noticed something peculiar. I saw a big yellow banana walking across the floor, and he seemed to be leading a few overripe fruits through the jungle. I never knew that fruit had this ability to learn this, so me and my siblings got to a couple of trees nearest to them and observed. My siblings were understandably hesitant to stay, but I was intrigued at these newly evolved critters, and I had to learn more about them. I had them stand back while I lowered myself across the tree to get a closer look, but I made sure that I was still not seen. As I observed them, I noticed that legs for walking weren't the only thing these strange bananas acquired. They also had mouths, arms, and eyes just like all of us. They could also speak, and the yellow one said something about marking the trees, and one of the overripe ones responded by taking out some weird silver fruit and spreading its juice onto the bark. I saw them about to leave as I made my way to the juice that they used and tasted it. Ugh, it was the worst juice any fruit could have ever produced. I heard the yells of my family, and I saw them bolt away further into the forest. I didn't know what frightened them, but then I saw them. A group of giant beasts that I have never seen before, quickly approaching, being ridded by more bananas. I went higher up the marked trees so as to not be seen, and continued my investigation of this species. One of the creatures got off the beast and pulled out a much smaller beast that must have also leapt on it for a ride. It pulled the beast's tail a couple of times to a point where it angered it into growling. The banana grabbed it and didn't let go of the angered creature as they made their way to the tree I was hiding in. They pinned it across the bark, and all of a sudden, the beast started roaring and was eating the tree. I felt the branches shake, and I noticed that my hiding spot was tipping over, and I was falling with it. I leapt as quickly as I could, but I wasn't able to make it to another branch. I saw myself falling towards one of the walking, talking fruits, and landed on top of them. The strange fruit started screaming and attempted to shake me off as the yellow banana pulled out another monster, one that was as long as a young tree. I jumped off the banana's head and made my way up another tree as fast as I possibly could, but then I heard a loud noise. After the noise was made, I saw there was a big hole in the tree that I was climbing, which I suspected was made by the long monster. I made my way to a branch and began swinging from vine to vine, the noises happening more frequently, and the strange fruits were running across the floor. More holes kept appearing on the trees I was passing. I didn't stop swinging until I was sure I lost them, so that I could land on a branch and safely catch my breath. I was tired and scared, and I couldn't believe how many dangers I discovered in one day. I decided that it was safe to come back home to my family and regain the strength needed to keep going. However, what I didn't know was that I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I knew I was getting closer to home, but for some reason, I couldn't see our tree in the distance. That was until I got to where our home used to be and saw it had fallen. My home was destroyed, marked with the same juice that the bananas used to mark the tree from before. I looked around the debris, looking for my mom, my brothers, my sisters, but I couldn't find any of them. Until I looked under our home. I saw the body of my mother pinned under the bark, her eyes staring into nothing, her face to a permanent fear. I went over to her, but then I saw all of my brothers and sisters laid down in a pile, swimming in an ocean of red. All their eyes stared into nothingness. Their faces were all in permanent fear. I called out to them, hoping that they were okay, but the truth was as plain as day. They were killed by the monstrous fruits, and I led them. I promised my mother that I wouldn't let anything harm my family, and I broke it. I laid down next to my family, feeling hopeless, alone, hoping that this was all just a bad dream. I yelled out, noticing a bunch of the creatures of the jungle looking down at me, witnessing my pain. However, as soon as they came to mourn with me, they left, and I soon found out why when I heard a click and looked behind me. The yellow banana was right on top of me, and he had the long monster staring right at me. I guess this is the end. I lost my home, my family, and now my curiosity is going to cost me my life. I stood there, frozen, not knowing where I could go to escape this monstrous creature. I looked back at the pile of bodies that used to be my family. The fruits took their lives without mercy, without regret. I am now all alone because of them, and that made me angry, and I wanted them to pay. With my anger for my family's death building up inside of me, I leapt at the yellow one. He tried to point the long monster, but he was too shocked by my sudden action to react, and I bit the exposed part of the banana's flesh, causing him to drop his companion. I ripped off his yellow skin and started to feast on his flesh, as that is the best way to deal with fruit whether they can walk or not. I started to notice that the banana started leaking a juice the same color as blood, and it tasted magnificent. I kept ripping off the flesh and savored it, listening to the screams of the banana, acting like he didn't deserve the fate I was giving him. I ate the last bit of flesh, licking the juice from my fingers, looking down at the remains. This banana seemed to have also developed bones, like the ones I saw the predators licking when they finished their meal. I looked back at my fallen family and cried a little, wishing they could have shared this unusual feast with me. Would they have liked this new type of banana? Curious. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that was Primal George. For those that have listened to it, I thank you, and I hope for those that are new to this channel, I hope you would like and subscribe. And I will see you guys tomorrow for our next story, as tomorrow we will be reading My Little Doll. As always, I'm your host, Paul Holstein, and this has been Poltergeist Frights. Thank you for listening.